If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
And also
Dasos Crowsong.
Oh my gosh, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a pretty exciting week on my end. I just finished up a pretty big research project. And
what were you researching?
Yeah.
I was researching artistic expression as a form of magic, and just finished up like a whole period of study with my Druidry order, and wrote a long paper about it and submitted it to him, and it was accepted. So I'm progressing on to a whole new stage of adventure.
Nice. Did you get into the Grant Morrison stuff? Did Grant Morrison come up at all?
Not at all. So now that's something I'm going to have to look into.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Pato's like, okay, loser, you didn't even get into Grant Morrison.
No, that's low hanging fruit. That's what I would have gone with. But you know, I'm an armchair an enthusiast, I guess.
Armchair enthusiast. You're studying to become an enthusiast. I love that. Well, so in case you guys can't tell, we have a guest this week. Oh my goodness. And that's exactly the kind of topic that we're going to get into. But we'll go through the motion of things. We have a lot to talk about this episode. Pato, how was your weekend?
My weekend was okay. I didn't leave the house on Saturday. I made a conscious effort not to go anywhere or do anything. Yeah, I don't get to do that very often, and that's what I did. And my wife and I decided that we would, I'm also not a huge TV person. People talk about binge watching TV and shit. I don't normally do that, but we decided to binge watch a show on Apple TV called Plutonic.
Okay.
And it's with Rose Byrne and Seth Rogen. And I'm a Seth Rogen apologist. I know some people find him insufferable. I really like him.
I like him, yeah.
I've liked him since Undeclared. Notice I did not say Freaks and Geeks, but Undeclared. And I love This Is the End, Sausage Party. His adaptation of Preacher was not terrible. The Boys is absolutely fantastic. I like a lot of what he puts out. And he put out this, there's a limited, like 10 half-hour episodes, 5-hour limited series, Plutonic. It's about him, a guy in his early 40s that reconnects with a female friend of his from their like early 20s. 20 years later, they reconnect. She's married with children. He owns a brewery, and they're just platonic friends. There's no romance. I mean, feelings get a little murky at points, but it's not When Harry Met Sally. It's really fucking funny. I love the half-hour episode format because we watched the whole thing over the weekend, but we broke it up into like 3 different sessions. And the last episode, and this is kind of a spoiler, but I feel like it needs to be fucking said. The last episode, one of the linchpins of the series is that they see a fucking UFO.
That's awesome.
They see a UFO, and they're at a housewarming party for the female character, and they go outside to kind of shoot the shit for a little bit, and a fucking UFO. They don't show the UFO, but they see a UFO, and the two of them run in the house, and they freak out because they've just seen the UFO, and the people inside the house, some of them believe him, some of them don't believe him. The kids are all really scared, and Rose Byrne's character, who's a mother, kind of like, goes, oh, it was probably nothing. Let's just get the kids ice cream. And Seth Rogen's like, what the fuck are you talking about? We just saw a fucking UFO. And it becomes a metaphor for their relationship and this whole thing. But I did not see that coming. I thought it was great. I thought it was very interesting the way that, and they use the term UAPs, that for that to kind of integrate itself into something so benign as a sitcom. A sitcom that for 9 previous episodes had no hint of the paranormal whatsoever. And then in episode 10, this season finale or series finale, they see a UFO, and it's something that just kind of happens. And I thought it was awesome the way it was handled. I thought that it made it seem almost commonplace, but obviously not commonplace because they don't react blasé to it. But it's just something that happens, as if witnessing a car accident could have happened or something else. You know what I mean? And I thought that it was really fantastic. And of course, I imparted more meaning on that than there probably was, and took it as a sign of God knows what. But that was really cool. The other thing that I want to talk about is that I started reading a new book. I finished reading Aaron Dees's Dogman in Texas book, and I thought it was great. Lots of good werewolf stories in there, and look forward to seeing what he does next. But I started reading a book called Coronado, about subtitled "The President, the Secret Service, and Alien Abductions," and it's about an incident that happened in, I believe, 1994, when there was a UFO convention going on at the Coronado Hotel, which is located, it's a small island located right off San Diego. And while it's supposedly a haunted hotel, and they had a UFO conference there. The same time that UFO conference was going on, then President Clinton was staying at the hotel, because on the same island, there was like a resort estate where the Swedish prime minister was going to be. And he was having like a dinner with him, right? So he's not going to stay at the house where the guy's vacationing. He's going to stay at the hotel and then go to the house for dinner one night. Well, the night that, this UFO conference is going on at this big hotel, the same time Clinton's there. And wouldn't you know it, but there was a mass abduction that night where about 30 different people have abduction memories. And the book is written by a hypnotherapist that like interviewed all these people and transcribed all their regressions. And very interesting read. And I'm only about a third of the way through it. So I don't have the whole story yet, but I can imagine myself talking about that more on upcoming episodes. It's a very interesting case. And I like that it's from like the mid 90s. And it's also has anal probes in it, which, yes, when we talk about it, like not super frequently on the show, but it's something that comes up from time to time. Anal probes are not commonplace,
right?
in the abduction mythos, but they are in this one.
I mean, they're commonplace in my household, but that's me.
Right. That's just a day that ends in Y.
Exactly. No, that's interesting. I've never actually heard that story before. So that's you've taught me something, Pato.
I had seen it pop up a couple times, and then saw that there was a book on it, and I grabbed it, and it went in my to read pile, and it was just a matter of working my way towards it.
Yeah.
So very interested to hear how it turns out.
Exciting stuff.
How was your weekend?
I have been doing a lot of much like our guest, a lot of studying up on magic. I had an interesting experience recently and previously. So I've just been kind of taking stock of my life lately and stuff like that. And it's been it's just been something. And one thing that I've wanted to do is kind of go back to why I started doing all of this to begin with, and kind of see, where I need to get myself back on track with certain circumstances. Anyway, this is all culminated to, I plan to summon something, or someone rather. And I don't mean it in like, I plan to summon something as like a metaphorical, like I legitimately have reached out to different people in magical circles to figure out how to summon things to begin with. So this is going to be very interesting, and I don't know how much I want to share on it just yet, because I don't exactly know how I want to format this and put it out there to everyone. But it'll be lots of fun. So again, I did a lot of reading up on like old magics, really old stuff that I am not familiar with at all, and honestly it's kind of boring 99% of the time. But
have you looked at the Goshia yet?
No, I haven't. I have not.
That's kind of like I would say like the Appetite for Destruction. I don't even know if you get that reference. It's one of the it's one of the foundation books, I would assume. Maybe our guest can correct me if I'm too far off base, but it's pretty big on summoning and ceremonial magic, and the kind of circles that you got to draw. Shit.
Yeah.
It's
right.
very it's not complicated, but it's like you got to be willing to do the shit.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. It's a fucking process. It's not like a 3-step process. It's like a 17-step process. But
and it's not even like you can I mean, because I could just take a page out of all these books and do exactly what they say. It's not just, you can't just do that. Like, you also have to like believe that what you're like in what you're doing.
Well, step one is just to do it. Most people don't get to that because they see the 17 steps and they say, fuck, that's complicated. And it's like, but you get to summon an intelligence from another dimension. It's like, yeah, but 17 steps. There's something I can do in like 4.
Yeah. Right.
Like, well, how bad do you want it? You know what I mean? Like, I think there's nothing focuses your intent like 17 fucking steps.
It's been very interesting, the different things that I've been told to try, and I certainly want to. I've been talking with we had him on the show once. His name's Octavian. He does the Strange Strange Dominion podcast, because that thing is exactly his thing, is to take magic and use magic to get into contact with these beings, right? So I was like, man, that's the first place I'm going to start. Let me tell you, that man's a gold mine of information. He knows the shit when it comes to that kind of stuff. So that's been nice, but I don't just want to take it from one source, because it is something that I'm serious about doing and legitimately trying to attempt. So I'm also looking for other resources. So if anybody listening to the show has any, maybe our guest might after the show, clue me in on some things. It's not Mothman related. It kind of is, but it's not Mothman. I'm not trying to summon Mothman.
You sounded a little bit like a friend of mine's old dealer who's like, I didn't spray it with water to weigh it down, I promise.
It really isn't Mothman. But yes, I understand why people are suspicious and wonder why maybe it isn't Mothman. Well, I'm not entirely convinced that Mothman can talk, so that might be hard to have a conversation with them.
That's fair enough.
Damien Eccles wrote, I only read one of them, but I know he's written a couple books on ceremonial magic, and the one that I read was incredible. It was very approachable, very down to earth, and you're helping one of the West Memphis 3. So
yeah, that's true.
I would say put that on your Amazon wish list for your subs to buy off of.
I'm going to see if he'll come on the show.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That would be a get. Yeah.
That'd be cool. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing a lot of. And also I saw Barbie.
How did you like it? I know you liked it, but I mean, please.
I really liked it. It was tons of fun. Very quotable. I now have decided to, I probably am going to quit this podcast and researching altogether so that I can go after my lifelong dream of beach. Because that sounds perfect. No, I really enjoyed it. I understand now, Pat, what you were saying about it being, it's a movie. It's what everybody's saying. It's a feminist movie. But it's not just a feminist movie. And I hate that that's the strict takeaway, is that like men can't watch it too.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I thought it was great. I think I'd say it was a feminist movie. I said it was a Fight Club for chicks. That was my tagline.
That's right.
But yeah, I'm glad you dug it.
Yeah,
I don't see how people can be threatened. I think it's because the idea that she doesn't want him as a love interest, I think that just like that really bothered some people. And I'll admit, like, even for me, like, I was like, well, what did he do wrong? Like, well, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, she just didn't want anyone as a love interest. It's not like she doesn't like Ken because she likes somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just she doesn't like any. She doesn't. She's asexual for the most part. You know what I mean? And that's totally fine. She doesn't need a partner. It's not like, oh, she's not into Ken because she's into another Barbie. It's like she just doesn't. And I think people that maybe aren't. I don't know. They feel threatened by that. I think that's what fucked with some people.
I think that people are threatened by the fact that also, like, once the Kens then fulfilled a stereotype. Well, that's exactly what Barbie does. But they don't understand that because they don't usually have to deal with that in their day-to-day life. And I'm not saying men don't have stereotypes that they don't have to live up to. You guys do. I'm not saying all men, you know.
I thought he looked cool with that fur coat. Fuck you. Like I didn't mind that. I thought they hit the nail on the head. All the like him playing the guitar and wearing the fur coat and like calling his house a dojo, like that was bad as fuck. Like they got that part right. That's dudes. That's like 13-year-old dudes though. But I felt seen. I was okay with that. Like, yeah.
I
think in a lot of ways, their expressions and everything were like those of the kids that were playing with them. Like, even when he was like, I thought maybe I could stay the night. And she's like, to do what? And he's like, I don't know. You know, like they had no clue what grown adults are supposed to be doing on an overnight date, but knew that was the goal, you know.
Well, that's true because they are. I mean, that's the only gripe that I have about the movie. I don't understand this world. I don't get the rules of this world, and it didn't really make a lot of sense, right? Because they're supposed to be being played with, and that is what influences their world. But we didn't really see any of that.
Yeah.
You know, but that's like the whole reason why Barbie's falling apart to begin with, you know. But I didn't care. I didn't need that. Right. I just had fun with it. I just enjoyed it. I got the message. I didn't even need the message. I just genuinely enjoyed the silly goofiness of it all.
Good.
So that's my take on the Barbie movie. It was good. And I like it. And I want to see it over and over again. So anyway, that was my weekend. That's what I did. So. All right. Can we get into the news? Can we talk about the news?
Nothing happened this week.
I've been waiting all week to talk about this. All week to talk about this. So first and foremost, let me talk about less. Well, it's just probably even heavier to me. Paul Rubens died.
Yeah, I saw
today, the day that we're recording this, but 2 days ago for you guys. Very sad. It really got me thinking a lot about, you know, there isn't like a replacement Pee Wee Herman. Can you think of anybody that's even close?
Oh boy. As far as stand-up, remember he was a stand-up comedian, and that was like an act he did. So like, are there stand-up comedians that have like personas like that? Yeah. Like I don't care. I mean, like Carrot Top or Emo Phillips, but those aren't like super relevant. I don't know about like right now.
And Paul Rubens wasn't either. Now, you know what I mean? He hasn't done anything. I can't remember the last time he did anything. You know, Pee Wee did
Mystery Men was the last thing I remember seeing him in the theater for. I love that movie.
Yeah, I just watched it with my daughter. Actually, we've been going over Paul Rubens, you know, with my kid in my house. So we've been watching all of Pee Wee movies. He did do Pee Wee's Big Holiday for Netflix, I think in 2018.
You're absolutely right. Yes, he did.
He did, but even then it was like, oh, go ahead.
He was also on Gotham. He played Oswald Cobblepot's father.
Yeah,
which is actually the second time that he's done that role because he was Oswald Cobblepot's father in the Tim Burton 1992 Batman Returns.
Wow.
I forgot about that. I actually watched Gotham too. I know I just got done talking about how I don't watch TV. I watched that show for a while when I was
He's such a character.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and we don't really have that anymore. Even like go through his Instagram. If you got a moment, go through the official Pee Wee Herman Instagram because it's not Paul
I've been following him ever since I started on Instagram.
It's just nothing but feel good innocence because that's kind of what he is. Even the jerking off at the movie theater, feel good.
Well, do you remember? I mean, I know you don't because you're so little, but like, so he got caught jerking off at the movie theater, and it was all over the news, and he was in you know all this stuff. And then the next year, he comes out at the MTV Movie Awards. He opens the show. He walks out on stage, and he goes, "Does anyone hear any good jokes lately?" And in an instant, everyone forgave him. No one cared.
Exactly.
Like he was just like, oh, whatever. It was like, dude, way to own it. That is textbook, like how you own that shit.
Yeah.
You know, didn't deny it. Didn't. Yeah.
You know, for a minute, he was he was getting in trouble for a couple of things, and somebody accused him of sexual abuse or something. I think it was unfounded, and nobody's ever come forward about that ever since then. Who knows? But he was definitely going out of control for a minute, but he fucking just picked his shit right up and just bounced right back and was Paul Rubens again. And good for him for doing that. But I don't know. It just makes me feel very melancholy for the future. Because like I said, we don't have things like that anymore. And maybe we should.
Dude, did you hear who else just died?
Who?
Is this fucking real? Do you guys ever watch Euphoria?
I don't.
Oh my God. The kid from Euphoria just died. The drug dealer. You would see him. Oh my God. This is not to overshadow the Paul Rubens thing, but first of all, that means someone else. They always go in 3. So I don't know who's fucking, let's make a bet right now. Who ain't gonna see Midnight?
I'm not betting on it. I don't feel that. So who was the kid from you? I mean, what else was he?
Angus Cloud. He was. If you never watched Euphoria, you wouldn't recognize him. But he was Rue's drug dealer, and he was a stoner. But he was real cool. But it was a very good character, and the actor in all interviews and red carpet stuff seemed a lot like the character that he was portraying. And there's some really good red carpet stuff with him, where like people would go up to him and be like, because Euphoria won all these Emmys and shit like that. And they're like trying to interview him and he's just stoned out of his mind being like, yup, like fucking like could not care less about everything that's going on around him. And he just seemed like the most chill, normal person in the world, albeit incredibly stoned. And yeah, man, that's fucking, he was 25 years old too.
Yeah, that just came, that news just broke.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow.
So
wow. Lots of death happening.
There's 2. Who's number 3? What do we think? Athlete, rapper, old person?
Probably another person I don't know.
Well, no.
I hope it's another person I don't know. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. We'll see what happens. Probably this David Grush guy, actually. I shouldn't say that. He's going to turn up dead. Anyway, speaking of which, rest in peace, Paul Rubens. What a terrible thing. But he was 70, so I mean, what can you do?
Had a good run.
People die. Yeah. It just happens. People that you love, people that you look up to, people that bring your life just a little bit of happiness. I mean, they die. It happens. So anyway, so big news this week. Pato, what happened this week?
UAP.
Some UAP stuff. So there was a UAP hearing, congressional hearing, that interviewed the whistleblowers, and this was a very interesting hearing. This is a very interesting discussion that they had here, and I think for the first time in all of this UAP disclosure stuff, this is the first time that I'm able to appreciate it. So David Grush had come out a couple of months ago. He did a very famous, not a very famous, well, it will be, News Nation interview, making all these claims about, crashed UAPs that we've retrieved and tried to reverse engineer, and body retrieval, and, these cover-ups, and, I mean, just pretty much everything that everybody already knew, right? But the difference is that what they're doing, this is pretty much a trial, is what this is. So the whistleblowers have now officially went on record under oath to state the information that they know. So I guess we'll talk about the witnesses a little bit. So David Grush served in 2 separate UAP task force, the 2 that were just prior to Arrow and what it is now. He is the intelligence officer for the Air Force, and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. So he's a guy that knows his shit, right? He's somebody of power that, if he were going to be briefed on any of this stuff, I mean, that would be the guy to do it. David Grush said that, he knows for a fact that there is a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. And that is what he stood up and told Congress. He made mention of how he has been personally threatened in his personal life and his professional life to not say anything. He says that he has been denied direct access to this information, despite the fact that it was literally his job to comb over classified information, but he was not granted access to these programs. He's claimed that this has been going on since the 1930s when we retrieved UAP from somewhere in Italy. And that alongside those crash retrievals, he kind of hinted at more crashes than just the one. But alongside those crash retrievals, we have also had biologics. So I'll stop there for a minute. You guys have any comments on Mr. Rush?
No.
Nothing.
I'm sorry. I was waiting for our guest to go. No. Seems
I don't
legit.
have anything. I don't have anything about the person, but the term the non-human biologics is an interesting phrase, because that could be a lot of things.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, very selective language, right? Like, they're not just going to make up random monikers for this shit. So does saying not referring to them as biological entities or beings or intelligences, biologics, does that mean that these things are drones? Maybe not necessarily robotic, but some kind of like flesh, like hybrid thing? Because that's something you hear theorized about Greys, is that they're not robots per se, but they kind of are just drones,
Biologics would be something that's alive or was once alive.
Google that.
Which they didn't ask him about. They didn't, which I don't know why. I mean, gosh, put me on that fucking panel. Let me ask the questions that we all want to know. I'd be like, so you say biologics. Are you saying that these entities were alive or were they dead? From there, they were dead. Okay, do they have flesh and blood and bone and organ? Is it? I mean, why didn't they? I don't think he knows for sure, and that's the problem, is that he's getting this information secondhand from people that worked for him. So he's never seen them, allegedly. He's never actually seen the bodies of these things. He says that he has been given knowledge that those things were retrieved. Pat, you were saying that just a couple weeks ago on the show that there was that guy that was being like harassed, like the ham radio guys being harassed by like the Air Force people, the Dolce people, because he was like listening on their transmissions. They were like messing with him.
Mm-hmm.
So could that? I mean, is it possible that that's what's happening to Grush? Is that his colleagues are lying to him?
Well, he wasn't the only one to testify this week, right? Didn't he bring in 2 lieutenants? Like, because all his information is secondhand. He's just been told stuff by people, right? But didn't he bring out like actual other witnesses that had firsthand information?
Yes, we'll talk about them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's how I would validate what he says as part of him not being a disinformation campaign, is because what he said was corroborated by firsthand witnesses.
Yes and no, because they couldn't really corroborate the whole biologics and non-human intelligence and crash retrieval programs. They were different. So they're not his witnesses. These are other whistleblowers that have come forward that we've seen before. It was David Fravor, who is one of the witnesses to the famous Tic Tac video. And, David is he's a pilot. He's been doing this for many, many years. To him, he's saying, look, there's absolutely nothing that we have, that we will have. That's what he said, that we will have in the next 10 or 20 years that even matches this. It's just nothing. It doesn't exist. And so he was one. And then the other guy, I thought was interesting, Ryan Graves, who's also a former Navy pilot. And the story that he told is that this isn't a one-time occurrence. This isn't even happening sometimes. These things are constantly in our sky 24/7, and he has seen them, and his whole crew has seen them, and they're very familiar with them. But the one thing that he specifically said was described the one craft, which he described as a dark gray or black cube inside of a clear sphere. That's what they observed. What do you guys make of that?
That's a new one.
Yeah, Yeah, I've never
Interesting.
heard any kind of description like that before.
And that's what he was describing. He said that the corners of the cube were hitting the end of the sphere, so it's not like it wasn't like levitating inside the sphere. It was like attached to this clear sphere. But yeah, I thought that was really wild. That was pretty crazy. And like I said, he maintains that, you know, again, this is something that happens. It's constantly happening. They're always here. They don't leave. So that's really interesting too. They were kind of discussing some of the not dynamics. Well, yeah, I guess dynamics of these craft and just how, you know, they'll come down for a little bit, they'll shoot off back into space, they'll come back down, they'll do this. You know, the maneuvers that they're talking about pulling off, a human physically could not withstand those G forces. We couldn't. It's not possible. So even if we had craft that could do that, we couldn't fly that craft with a person in it. So if these things are crashing and we're retrieving some type of living entity from it, they're not human. So, I mean, I guess non-human intelligence kind of is right on the money. I don't know. I think that this was really the most important. If you're going to watch any of the UAP hearings, UFO hearings, or whatever the fuck they're called now, watch this one. Skip the other ones. They're really boring. You don't really learn much, but watch this one because, again, these men are under oath. And, you know, the things that they're describing, I mean, they are literally talking about a cover-up. David Grush said that he knows people who have been physically harmed for trying to come forward and talk about this.
Yeah, that's interesting that was the way that they handled this up until recently. And now there's a whole bunch of people coming forward and not being physically harmed. So why? I don't doubt that was the case back then, but what changed? Is there just too many people? Is it that are things being laxed and, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, now all of a sudden we've got this big spotlight on it, and maybe that's it. I mean, you know, when did this Mr. Grush come forward officially? You know, on the books. I don't know. I don't have that answer. But he has provided other documentation and stuff that we haven't seen yet. So it's not like he's just saying this stuff. You have to, in order to be a whistleblower, you have to actually have some type of evidence to back up what you're saying. And if they, as a congressional party, find out that you're lying, you're in deep shit. You're in trouble. If you don't provide that evidence to back up your claim, you just fucked up all the way up. And I don't think these three men are doing that.
No, I don't think so either.
You know,
Yeah,
whatever.
These aren't like TMZ interviews.
Right. This is not, it's not even the regular, a regular court, you know, it's not even county court. Like, this is the big people court. You know, this is a big thing. And, you know, people are like, well, I want to see this and I want to see that. Well, that's the problem, is that this is an ongoing investigation. We're not going to get that information. You do see that with regular court cases. Giant murder trials. We were just kind of talking about this. There's a lot of stuff in the discovery that comes out after the trial's over that you would have never even known existed until you got a hold of that discovery. That's the same thing here. We might not ever see that information. It just depends on how this is handled going forward. So very interesting stuff. The guys over at Wild and Weird, West Virginia, they did an awesome breakdown of everything that was said over on, I watched it on their YouTube channel. You know, Joe, he was in the Air Force. So he kind of breaks down some of the dynamics of some of these crafts and explains kind of behind the scenes a little bit how the military works. Really nice. And then Ron is just super smart. So great guys. Go check out their, if you don't want to watch the actual congressional hearing, go check out their video on it. They did a really good job breaking it apart and kind of explaining what's being said, and also backing that up with claims from people before. You know, all the crazy people, all the researchers, everybody that's been wrong supposedly this whole time. Guess what? Everybody's kind of been right in what they've been saying, and here we are. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what else happens.
Yeah, it definitely got me paying attention to these things again, because we were kind of at the point where we were like, this is bullshit. Like they were getting boring, and
Yeah.
And now that changed. So
Yeah, same. I'm excited about it again, and that's important. So I don't care about any of y'all. It's the fact that I'm excited about it again that matters. So that's all I have to say about it. You guys have anything else to add to the news or to that part of it?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, well, let's get on with it. Dasos, who are you? Why are you here? Why are you talking with us?
Apparently I'm in demand. I don't know. um, my name is Dasos Crowsong. I'm a druid, a multimedia artist, and a writer. And yeah, I have a lot of friends in the paranormal community, although I don't really do a whole lot directly related with it. But I get to talk to a lot of people.
So you're a druid, but you're not directly related with the paranormal community.
Well, fair enough.
I'm just saying. Okay, so for the people, because we don't do a lot of like paranormal stuff on this show, and you know that because you listen to it. So for people that aren't familiar with druidism, do you want to explain that a little bit?
So it can be a lot of things. For me, it's a religious practice and a philosophical approach to life. It's about more mindful ecological engagement, and magic, natural magic. Uh, the order that I'm in was founded by Ross Nichols, who was really close friends with Gerald Gardner, who founded Gardnerian Wicca. So the two of them together actually came up with the Eightfold Wheel of the Year. So
Oh, okay.
there's some similarities in practice, although I would say Druidry, as my order practices it, is a bit more academic and focused. There's a lot of research and study and reading and a lot of storytelling, especially like in the early stages. You start off as a bard, and you're really supposed to dive into like the bardic arts of storytelling and song. So
Very cool.
That is my go-to D&D character.
not surprising.
Very cool. So how did you end up discovering, because that's pretty, I mean, when you talk about, spiritual types of religions, I mean, you got paganism and Wiccans, and hell, we had the Satanists on, and Jehovah's Witnesses. Druidism to me, I feel like, is a very fringe religion. I mean, how do you get into something like that?
Well, I had a couple of weeks of really synchronous moments that culminated with 3 different people that are really close to me calling me a druid. And I'm like, maybe I should look into that. And so I read a book called The Path of Druidry by Penny Billington. And it's a really good early approach to the whole concept. She breaks down a lot of what my order teaches in a single book. And by the time I finished reading it, I really wanted to get more involved. And she is the editor for the magazine that Obod puts out. So she talks about the order of bards, ovates, and druids in her book. And so once I finished working through the book, I decided to reach out to the order, and I started taking their courses.
Wow, very cool.
So that's been about 3 years that I've been doing coursework through them.
Oh, so it's kind of a newer endeavor for you.
Yes.
So did you practice anything prior to that?
Prior to that, well, I was raised very conservative evangelical Christian, and went through a lot of religious abuse. Sure. And in my 20s, I kind of finally came out of the closet for the last time, and walked away from that religion, and went pretty aimless for many, many years. And then when I was 34, is when I started practicing Druidry. But went through a lot of active addiction, and then a whole recovery adventure in the intermittent time, and that factored a lot into me getting into a spiritual path. Was I was working the 12-step recovery program, and really wanted to kind of get into some sort of spiritual development, but really didn't want to get back into my birth religion or anything related to it. So
Sure, that's understandable. For the listeners, I know that we've had three guests in a row that have talked about their spiritual path, and we're not going to make it about that. But I just want to say, notice some of the trends that we have here. Typically, people, I guess, and so far we're 3 for 3. Everybody that we've had to talk about 3 very different spiritual paths have all kind of found that path because of some type of abuse that they've suffered, and a lot of the times tied into religion. So, I mean, I guess that's no surprise.
yeah, it's actually I'm in a group chat on Instagram with a few other creators in this community, and that's a topic that comes up a lot is how many people, in the paranormal community and in alternate spiritualities seem to be, responding to, something that went wrong earlier in life.
Right. Yeah, it is very interesting. I never had any type of religious abuse personally to get to where, to my own fringe spirituality, but a lot of people have, and it's very unfortunate. It's not to say that all Christians are abusive people. They're not. But it's, like I said, it is very interesting to see people being pushed to really fringe beliefs based on that. But I think a lot of people do their homework, too, when you're kind of on that spiritual path. You kind of have your hand in a couple of different things and kind of read up on different stuff. So
I think if you're raised to believe in Jesus, believing in Sasquatch isn't too much of a stretch after that.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah, that's, I mean, it's not much of a stretch. Well, I would think you'd be more inclined to believe in the paranormal, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's my point. That's why there's so many
there's
people in the paranormal community that have strong religious backgrounds, is because they're indoctrinated from a youth to believe in wacky shit. And then now they're just rebelling by believing in different wacky shit. Like, fuck you, God. I believe in the Snallygaster.
Whatever.
Got ya.
Yeah, this is my God of choice. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Hey, it is what it is. It wasn't really too much of a thing for myself. I mean, I had religious family members, but they weren't like gung ho about it. So I don't know. I don't know what my fucking excuse is, I guess is what I'm saying. That's it. So what kind of areas of research interest you? I mean, you seem to kind of have your hand in a little bit of all of it.
Well, right now, I've been focusing on basically like art and craft as magical expression. I'm starting to work on a book that it's basically going to be like a really witchy Martha Stewart kind of a project. I'm going to go through a lot of different craft mediums, clay, glass, different fibers and stuff, and just talk about different projects that like crafting your own altar tools and magical accoutrements, whatever. And that's been the primary focus of my research over the last year. But prior to that, and where I mostly tie into like the paranormal, is I've been researching mythology, and just sort of like how mythology kind of like, especially like Greek mythology in a way kind of started off as like paleontology without context. So like a lot of giants and different heroes, like there were a lot of temples that might have had like the femur of Theseus, and it's like this giant femur bone, and clearly not human from our understanding, but to them Theseus was literally larger than life. And so when they dug up this giant femur, they were like, oh well, clearly this is part of some hero, but it was actually a mammoth or a mastodon.
Right. Interesting.
And so I've been researching, where a lot of like our a lot of myths are etiological, like they explain the origin of a thing, and so looking at a lot of that, and then like how that has been influenced by our understanding of human sexuality and gender expression, and things like that, because the fact is that queer and trans people didn't just appear like in the 70s during the
Right.
sexual revolution. We've actually been around forever. There have just been different ways of understanding that across time and culture. And so I've really been exploring the myths where we were telling those stories.
Yeah, I had always heard that the eunuchs were, people believe that they may have been transgender.
That was definitely a trans expression at the time.
So I think that is interesting, because that's some ancient history right there for you. So I think that is really neat to kind of see where these things have come off track. Do you feel that we've maybe just speaking of gender identity and sexuality, do you think that like we've kind of now we're starting to circle back to maybe how things used to be? Was it because it wasn't always controversial, was it?
Right. Well, it's a lot of cultures prior to being colonized by European Christians had an understanding of a broader spectrum than just the binary. You really see the colonizing force is also the same force that really starts to reinforce the not just the binary, but the very different gender roles. And it grows out of colonization that all of a sudden gets purported to be the way that things have always been. But then, if you look at those people's earlier stories, no, it wasn't. It really showed up with white colonization.
Yeah, it's really interesting, people's definition of always.
Yeah.
Because they just think that, you only go back so far and then it stops there. But I'm not much into, I'll be honest, I'm not much into like the ancient stuff. I just, because my brain just doesn't, I got other information that fits there. You know what I mean? But I'm always curious about certain topics, and then I just don't have the spoons to fully get into it. But that is kind of something that I'm familiar with, mostly though because of like beauty standards. Beauty standards are interesting for women because we live in this, well, we're just now seeing the fat girl revolution again, right? So fat women are starting to make a comeback, but they weren't for a long time. But really, when we look at like the scope of history, fat women were always desired, except for like the last 200 years. And it's so weird how like that blip makes up our minds for the modern day when it's only 200 years out of the whole existence of humanity. Fat women were always desired because they could survive. They proved that they could survive longer. They were better at child rearing and things like that. They could survive harsh winters because they had, big thighs and big butts and big stomachs. And I mean, it was just natural for that to happen. And then the last 200 years came along and just completely blew that out of the water. So it definitely puts a lot of things into perspective when you go back that far.
Right.
So that's very interesting. Pat, you got anything yet?
Oh, now you want me to chime in when you start talking about the BBWs?
Yeah, of course. That's your area. Master.
What's there to say? If she ain't 280, she ain't a lady, right?
That's your thing.
That's my thing. And it sounds like it was humanity's thing for many a generation.
Yeah. You're not the weirdo.
I am just giving over to my base instincts by desiring a thick young woman to pull. Exactly.
They're good at having kids and stuff.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I think that's their only downfall. Is that they're too fertile.
Well, that was back before we had 8 billion people. That was important.
Yeah, when only half your kids were going to make it to adulthood.
Oh, dude, don't threaten me with a good time.
Half, and it's 1 out of 2. Oof. It's terrible. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought maybe I'd let you chime in for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, like my first 2 girlfriends were pretty skinny, and then my third one wasn't. And honestly, she kind of ruined me because all she ever wanted to do was like sit on the couch. And I actually had a dream about her last night, so it's funny you got me talking about her. She was a big pothead. She was like the first pothead I dated, and I mean I smoked weed too, but that was like her thing. So we would smoke weed and we would make like these like market day pizza dippers and watch movies in my basement and fuck. And that was all we did for like 3 years, and it really ruined me. And I've been kind of chasing that dragon ever since. You know,
Okay.
it's funny how you get what you could be into something for your whole entire life, and then you just get a taste of the right thing, and then it leaves you forever changed. And that's it, man. It's
I
chasing
was
Amy.
more asking if you had any questions for the guest, but I appreciate the commentary. I'm big with it. I was just gonna let you keep going until you were done.
No, I mean, so the magic stemming from creativity, that is something that I have seen so many times in my life from stories that I write. You know, I have written lots of short stories, lots of screenplays. It kind of like it was my first before I knew how to do anything else. I always knew how to write. You know, and more often than not, I could point to examples of things that I've written and how kind of like variations of them have come true. Even so far back as if you look at my last 48-hour film, Recipe for Oblivion, who the whole punchline of it is Mike Vanderbilt's a fucking scumbag and an asshole, and the internet turns on him, and then that's pretty much what's happened in the past 6 months. Unjustly so, but still. I've had that happen a lot. And the way I've always heard that rationalized is that when you pour, think about writing a story and think about writing a story that has ties to your personal life, right? I'm going to sit there and I'm going to write a story, and this story, it's kind of about my friends, and this character is supposed to be me and that character is supposed to be her, and we're going to get in this adventure and this is going to happen, and then blah, 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 blah. Well, if you spend a lot of time on that story and you put a lot of thought into it, and you give these fake characters that are avatars of yourself motivations and give them problems, the type of problems that you experience, at what point does that not just all become magic? You know what I mean? You got intent, you got direction, you got an outcome, you got time that you spend meditating, pouring into this construct that you're building, and for that story then to come true. That's not the craziest thing. Well, for some people, it's the craziest thing in the world. But if you're somebody that kind of believes in this shit, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
so I see that happen a lot. I see that happen a lot.
Well, I don't know because I don't create stories, but I do know that you can certainly make things happen.
And I 100% sign off on that.
Yeah.
We lost you for a moment.
Oh no! I was on a really good.
It recorded it.
There.
But then I talked over you to avoid the awkward silence. It actually sounded like you ended like your statement was over.
What was the last thing you heard?
I don't remember because it was silent for a long time.
Oh, what the fuck ever!
You were talking about writing and giving your characters motives and intentions and everything, and then how can that not affect?
Yeah,
and I thought it was awesome because that's as above, so below. In Druidry, we do very similar stuff on the inner plane. A lot of the meditative work is going inside and creating. Basically looking at yourself and saying, "What do I want to be?" Okay, let me create those qualities within myself, and now project that outside, as above, so below.
Right. I mean, you're focusing your intention into a result as well.
Right.
And the act of writing is meditative. You're sitting in a quiet space, potentially quiet space by yourself, right? Focusing on this thing. And how does that book not become a spell? Or that story not become a spell? All it is it's something that you tell to yourself. It's all the parts are there, and if you look at Stephen King, like he's got so much stuff from like the Dark Tower series and stuff, where he's had lots of synchronicities, where his creative work has bled over into his real life. I think it happens more often than you think. It happens with a lot of different people, And
Oh yeah, if you ever listen to Todd Purse's podcast, Creative Weirdos and Weird Conversations that he has, he's always talking about different comic book artists, like and I don't know names, but I know
Grant Morrison.
kind
It's
of
Grant
like
Morrison and Alan Moore, probably.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You know, and it, John Constantine's creator and Conan the Barbarian, the creator for that one, they're doing all kinds of, you know, metaphysical and magical stuff with their work.
Oh Jesus! I would not want to be in a Conan world. I would not last long.
But you know, some entire comic series were done as hyper sigils.
That's the Invisibles. How do you? What are you? Are you not? Do you not know who Grant Morrison is?
Not really. Like I've listened to a lot of podcasts and I retain some things, and then, you know, I don't have enough time to research independently all of the things that I want to look into.
You know what though? Thank you for admitting to not knowing, because there's so many people that they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is," and they have no fucking clue what you're talking about. I've done it before. Grant
Morrison, the Invisibles is kind of, and Alan Moore predates him. Okay, Alan Moore is kind of like V 1.0, and Grant Morrison is 2.0. But Alan Moore predates me. I'm 42, so Alan Moore is like people 5 years older than me and whatever, and that's very loose. But Grant Morrison, yeah, with the Invisibles, that was a hyper sigil, and that was him. I could do the synchronicities and the way that book did for me exactly what it was supposed to. Exactly what he set out to do was expand people's consciousness, expose them to new thoughts and new media and new authors and new music. It was supposed to expand the audience consciousness and kind of prepare the world for the next millennia. And I honestly believe that in my case, mission accomplished. The Invisibles changed my fucking life. Yeah. Yeah. And it's really awesome. And it's conspiracies and UFOs, and there's lots of occult shit in there. I learned about fucking how to charge sigils through masturbation through that shit.
That's definitely it, because he was talking about how he gives lessons on chaos magic at the end of each one.
Yeah,
and as soon as he said chaos magic, I'm like, well, there's some jacking off happening there.
Oh, and to be like 17 and to be like, oh, this is how it works, motherfucker. Let me roll up my wizard sleeves and fucking get to work. Like, I swear to God, for a time in the late 90s, I was the species' most powerful magician alive, just because of the amount of wanking that I did staring at squiggly lines. Yeah,
no, that shit works for real. Like if you,
it
want
does
something and you want it now, jerk off about it, or flick your bean, whatever it is that you do. Really, it's very serious stuff. Just be careful.
No, there's blowback. I broke my foot after I did I was trying to
while jerking off.
No, but I kind of was going for the wrong stuff that didn't take other people's free will into consideration, and it blew back at me, and I broke my foot, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do this anymore, and I learned, and I'm glad I learned that at 19, and it didn't learn later on in life where there could have been like really dire consequences. I just got a slap on the wrist as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. But it's definitely a technology, which is kind of how I look at it now. It's a way to interface with the universe, if it's real, and I would put any amount of money on that. I think that's why I was talking about the Goshi earlier. Like, fucking do the 17 steps. I haven't done the 17 steps because I don't want to, but do the 17 steps and it will work. But
all of those weird systems, they're so involved and complicated for a reason, because they have to create all of these different reference points and everything to work. But if you go through all of the effort, it'll work.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna go the distance. I'm gonna sink that ship. I don't know what the phrases are for for what it is that I'm going to do, but I'm very interested. So I don't know. Maybe other people will be too. It'll be fun. But yeah, that is, it's funny, Pato, because I had no clue what you were talking about. Didn't know who Grant Morrison was when you were talking about him. But now that you started talking about it again, it's one of the first conversations you and I ever had. And I don't even think it was for the podcast.
No, I'm sure that's usually my go-to. It's like, just because. Yeah. Grant Morrison is he's a huge influence on me. Or I'm sorry, they are a huge influence on me. And I love all their work, and yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If you're ever looking to pick up a comic book and be like, what should I read? I don't know what I should get into. Grant Morrison, just to fall back to that. They did Doom Patrol, Animal Man, The Invisibles. I just got done rereading their run on X-Men, and that was awesome because it talks all about evolution and the next kind of phase for mankind. They did a bunch of stuff, but definitely, that Happy Show that was on Sci-Fi with the floating Patton Oswalt was the voice of like the floating like animated horse.
Is the whole thing animated?
No,
That makes it better.
it's Chris. It's what's his name from SVU. He's like an alcoholic detective, and his daughter's imaginary friend is an animated flying horse by the name of Happy, voiced by Patton Oswalt, and they fight against. It's like there's like a sex cult. There's like someone that dresses up like Santa Claus and kidnaps children. It's real dark and weird shit, but it's worth watching. There's 2 seasons of it on Sci-Fi or on Netflix, I think.
Wow. Check that shit out, I guess. Wow.
All right. I'll let you get back to the guest now.
Well, that's okay. So speaking of creating and putting magical spin on it, you said that you're working on this Martha Stewart-esque book. So what does that look like if you are creating these projects? I mean, what are you doing? Are you infusing them with some type of extra special magic? I mean, what is that?
Well, what I'm basically doing is looking at mindful approaches to crafting. I think, I kind of grew up really active in crafting, and like my mom's mom was could make anything out of yarn. And I grew up really heavily influenced by her and learning how to kind of like reverse engineer stuff. And, so when I got into, when I first started looking at witchcraft, I was kind of like, I thought there'd be a lot more craft in it than there
Sure.
actually is. Like most 101 books might teach you how to make a poppet or something, but there's to me, a disappointing amount of, to represent air on your altar, make or buy a wand. And it's like, well, okay, go into that a little more deeply,
Sure.
Not, witchcraft can be a stuff heavy practice, and, the stuff only has as much power as you want it to have, I guess. But I think that there's a much more mindful way of engaging with the stuff, and not everything has to be so much commercialism. It's like, it feels like to get into witchcraft, you have to go and buy all of these stones, all of these candles, all of this stuff. And I think you could actually engage with it on a completely different level if you were to consider, like, what might you be interested in making, or even just understanding how it's made or what elements it's made of on a different level than you already do can help you interact with an already made object than you would be just considering it an end product.
I mean, I would agree that if you are making your own tools, then they're definitely a lot more special to you, which I would think would be more effective in your day-to-day life. In witchcraft, there's tons of like ethics involved and people breaking, especially in all this new age stuff, this this witch talk and things like that. People will be like, help, I gotta, I need a certain stone for a certain thing. And it's like, no, you don't. I mean, you just,
right.
It depends on, it's not, they're like, oh, what does this crystal do? And it's like, well, none of them do anything. It's what you kind of believe that they do that matters.
Exactly.
It's just a symbolism of your own mind manifesting that outcome. That's all it is. Just a physical item that symbolizes that. And I think people miss that a lot. There's not really too much nature involved with, something like Wicca or paganism that is supposed to be very nature heavy. And that's very unfortunate.
Right.
I think when you're starting out, it's important to follow the recipe. It's like anything else. It's like baking a cake, right? The first time you bake the cake, you want to use the recipe book.
Yeah.
And then after you get the hang of it, you can say, you know what? Instead of using a little bit of this, I'm going to use a little bit of that. Or you know what, I'm gonna leave it in an extra 2 minutes because I like it a certain way or whatever. Definitely, I
I like
think
that.
if you
Yeah.
want to elevate yourself to that next level, I think anyone that's really great at this kind of stuff uh, does personalize every aspect of it. They 100% double down on character creation, and they take the time to pick their hair and pick their outfit, and you know, they don't just use one of the default presets, right? But
Right.
the first time you run the simulation, the first time you play the game, might not be a bad idea just to,
You need that tutorial.
yeah, I just do the tutorial on easy mode, get the hang of it, and then you can start swapping out shit.
I
Um,
agree with that. I like that. I like that perspective of it because I think that you're right. It's overwhelming to begin with, but I think that you know, if you're new into these things or you're just now getting into these things, I think one thing you have to remember is that this is a personal experience. There's not really, you can't really fuck it up that much. It's pretty easy to
Right.
do. And you're kind of, you know, you're kind of the captain of your own ship there. Um, you know, and you kind of get to decide how you run that ship. But I also agree with Pato. I think it does have its place, especially when you're learning for the first time. And you know, I think that that's also not a bad idea. But I do agree, as you get into it, you can do stuff like pick up books about how to craft your own things, and I think that that's also very worthy.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be like a more advanced book because I think that there's like a ton of 101 books on the market right now, and there really have been. I mean, I started looking at paganism in the early aughts,
Hmm.
and even at that time, there was just a flood of 101 books on the market,
Yeah.
and very, very few. Like, if you were to go into Books a Million or Barnes and Noble, there, you know, even in my area of Florida, which is pretty podunk, you could find 20 to 40 different 101 titles, depending on if you were looking at astrology, tarot, the
Right.
craft in general, Wicca as a religion. Now there's even more of those, and there are still very few advanced books. It's very much catering to the like
The newbies,
the newbies, yeah, exactly, those who are very young in their craft.
the baby
And
witches. Yeah.
which is fine, you know. I mean, the more material out there, the better. But I also think that there's a point where, you know, like my book is going to have no correspondences and probably no actual like written out spells. It's all going to be, you know, seed ideas and jumping off points,
Okay.
um, with you know, a lot of you know, like here's an idea of how to engage. For one thing, it's going to start off from an elemental perspective, because the other point that the book is trying to make is that the earth, air, fire, water four element system is great for like doing your altar layout and your quarter calls, but trying to break everything in the world down into, is this earth, air, fire, or water, is kind of reductive and arbitrary and sometimes counterproductive.
Okay.
Like, um, you know, the system grew out of ancient Greek philosophy, and it has been, you know, I mean, Gardner put it into Wicca as a set of reference points, and it has its purposes. But I think that if we were to acknowledge that our craft is a lot more nuanced than four elements, we could again have a more deeper, you know, a deeper relationship with what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I look at the elements as like clay, glass, water, oil, wax, wood, metal, you know, and then I break down, you know, so instead of like an equal armed cross to represent four elements or a star to represent five, I'm going to encourage the reader to come up with their own word web of associations to work out what elements are relevant to their craft,
Hmm.
and come up with, because, you know, I mean, there's a heck of a lot more than four. The periodic table has 118,
Right.
so
Very
yeah,
true. Very
you
true.
have options.
That's true, and I mean, we'll probably add some more. I'm sure, especially if these UAPs decide to land and talk to us. So
There you go.
there is options. I think that's a very neat idea. I think it's unique, and I'm interested to see what comes of it. Now, so the stuff that you make, do you sell these things? Is it possible for people to buy them if they wanted to?
Yes, I have a Reset 20 is my Etsy store. It's also my art studio. And you can find that linked on my Instagram. And I do sell some stuff. A lot of my more elaborate stuff I end up giving away or like donating to different events and stuff. But I do sell some things. I'm terrible at capitalism.
That's okay. I mean, well, I'm terrible at crafting, so we could probably help each other out.
There you go.
I think that we can work something out there. But yeah, I think that like I said, some of us just suck at creating things. I can't make a wand. I don't know how. I don't even know where to start. My brain just is going to glitch out and not do it. So we definitely need crafters. Because there's also people that will buy the shit, and we need crafters that are good at it. So definitely, I'll post your Instagram, of course, in the description. Not to totally jump to a completely different topic, but that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. So when I was going through and I was asking for guests to come on the show, there was a very interesting suggestion, and you had the idea to maybe bring that suggestion to life. Do we still want to go through with as planned and try and see what happens?
Sure. I think it'd be a great idea. So, like, Vuk had suggested that we channel John Keel on a spirit board.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that would be. I think we should try it.
All right.
I don't know. You're gonna try it? Okay.
Yeah, I've got it right here. And Ashers, if you'll hold the planchet with me here, and Pato,
Sure.
I'll call out the letters if you'll write them down for us, okay?
You got it.
All right. Let's see. We're starting off. Here we go. H.
Oh.
Oh, now it's over to O, and then to M. Back over to O. S. A. T. Back over to A. N. Oh, I.
Well, so far, Keel is rude.
S. Oh. Goodbye. I have a very short conversation there.
Okay.
What do we got?
Homo Satanus?
Homo Satanus? Well, I think it's clear that John Keel is reading Northern Lights by Fred Anderson. It's his newest book. High Strangeness in Sweden.
And you can too. Available all major retailers.
And especially Amazon.
Right. Buy 2 copies in case you want to read it twice.
I was like, oh no, is Keel fighting with the devil? What's going on here? You never know with John Keel. I mean,
really,
he's full of surprises, even in his death.
And with all the Satanists that are in the field at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, oh, hold on there. We're gonna get canceled. That's pretty wonderful. Do you do a lot of divination in that regard? Do you
I don't do much in the way of mediumship,
Sure.
but I do a lot of divination for myself. Part of Druidry is kind of tapping into the flow of the creative force,
Mm-hmm.
and we call that the Awen, and that can be done through several different means, including divination. And so I practice. I don't read typically for other people, and I don't read professionally at all, but I do write articles to kind of teach people how to more mindfully or more deeply engage with their own personal divination practice. I think it can also be really valuable for doing things like shadow work.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
So,
I
and
agree.
that's all basically psychology and self-help, but packaged in a way that works for some people.
That's
So,
what I try to explain to people about tarot, is that it's not going to tell you the future. It's going to tell you what you already know. It's just going to put it in a way for you to understand it better.
right. Right.
And
It's basically looking at the same thing through a different lens.
yeah, it is, right, because whatever your situation is, no matter what that card says, you're going to apply it somehow to that situation, in a way that maybe you thought that you weren't going to before. What types of tools do you use in your just tarot, or do you do other stuff? Do you do runes?
Actually, I collect tarot decks, but I don't work with them much. But
Yeah.
it's like they've got a tarot for every theme now. So I had to get the Disney princesses and Alice in Wonderland. But the ones
Yeah.
I actually work with most are I have a set of what are called Ogham staves. It's an Irish tree alphabet.
Oh, okay.
And so each letter represents a different tree. And then I've added, because I'm not in Ireland, so I've added several different American tree branches from my own area into it. And then Laura Tempest Zakroff
Hmm.
has she's an amazing author. She wrote Weaving the Liminal and Anatomy of a Witch, and for both of those books, she did a companion oracle deck,
Oh,
and I
okay.
really like those decks.
Very cool.
Anatomy of a Witch is a really good. It's different from most books because it's really about engaging with your body and focusing on your health and working with the body as a tool of your craft. And highly recommend it.
That sounds. I actually might pick that up. So that sounds really interesting, actually. So but do you use other tools as well, or just mostly decks?
Um, Mostly decks and like the Ogham staves or runes. Um, I'm starting to work with the Greek alphabet as an oracle system, but I haven't
Interesting.
a lot of. It's really fascinating because the Greeks and most of the major cities, the agora marketplace of the city would have a statue of Hermes,
Hmm.
and that statue of Hermes would have a plaque that would have the entire alphabet and oracular meanings for every letter of the alphabet.
Yeah, very interesting.
So it was that was like a common, every person could practice that kind of a divination system in that society. So that
Yeah,
wasn't even like you weren't witchy if you were doing that back then. You
it
were
was
just
acceptable.
Joe coming to the marketplace to get your sheep knuckle bones read.
Okay. Different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried to get into runes. I don't know what about them makes it difficult for me. They're very simple, and I
Mhm.
don't know why I can't.
Well, how do you feel? I think that's something interesting to consider for a minute is that, you know, when religion was more accessible and approachable, um, I mean, I guess it wasn't back then, right? There was specific oracles. There was people that you would go to if you wanted a divine encounter. You had to go to the marketplace and you had to meet with people for it. Um, I mean, do you think that that was the case? Do you think that religion was more or less accessible back then? And look at where we're at now, and
I,
kind of to bring the conversation full circle, we've had a lot of people have negative religious experiences because they have someone else's interpretation of religion impressed upon them, right?
mhm.
um Instead of everyone just kind of cultivating their own relationship, which I think is probably the healthiest thing for everybody to do, is to
Right.
make their own wand and come up with their own rule book for how this all works. But yeah, ancient cultures, how do you kind of juxtapose those two?
Well, and like if we're sticking with the Hellenic culture, it was a little of both because you did have um, the the function of the polis relied on the various temples. So like the temple to Athena might have like the actual war chest for the nation state would be in that temple. And other temples might hold all of the money that was set aside and reserved for weather emergencies and things like that. But then at the same time, most households also had like altars to Hestia, or whatever the family daemon would have had an altar, and there would have been a lot of household worship and ritual happening there. And then for other things, you would have practiced your own personal spiritual cleansing and hygiene in your home, but you would have also partaken in communal worship at temples, and that would have been shaped around your vocation. It would have been shaped around your role in society. Some temples had service that was optional for men of a certain age or for women of a certain marital status, or so everybody had a place where they belonged. But then again, everybody had a place where they belonged, and that may or may not have coordinated with what they wanted to be doing. It would have been a lot of factors that were outside of their control. So I think that there was maybe a more societally rich religious expression, but at the same time, there wasn't as much religious freedom either.
Okay. Just asking.
That's a good question.
Thank you, Ashers.
You're welcome, Pat.
I try to ask the good questions.
You do ask good questions. Do you have any others that you want to dive into?
Druid, what's something that you feel is a very positive portrayal of Druids in mainstream media, and what do you feel is like a very negative one? Like, what makes you cringe and what makes you goes, yeah, I'm one of those motherfuckers? And then what's something where you're like, oh, they get it all wrong, I hate this?
Okay. For the good one, I don't know. There's not a lot that's like, this is a druid that isn't just like high fantasy, which would be really cool. But, no, I can't interpret what the red and white dragon fighting in the tower mean, because there's no real red and white dragon, But
yeah, that was my leadoff question was going to be, do you turn into a bear or a wolf? But I thought that would have been insensitive.
Well, you guys know Aaron. Of course, I turn into a wolf.
That's true.
Oh man, he has been. It's been so much fun, because as he's been researching his Dogman book, I've been doing my druidry stuff, and he's constantly like, "So do you guys talk about shapeshifting?"
Yeah.
I'm like, yes. And he's like, "What is it? Are you guys shapeshifting? Are you going to turn into a werewolf?" I'm like, "I can't tell you. It's secrets, man."
You guys have a pretty long history, is that right?
Yeah, we've known each other since we were teens.
Wow, because he's kind of, even though you've obviously had an interest in this, he's kind of the reason why you've been pulled into this community.
Very much so. I'm only here because he invited me into Clubhouse, and I got to meet you guys and Greg and a whole bunch of people there.
All us weirdos, yeah.
Yes. I'm
And
definitely riding his coattails.
Did you guys bond over these kinds of topics, or just being general awkward kids?
Well, we actually bonded because I got outed as gay, and my mom was a church secretary, and so my parents were like, "That's it, you're going to church with us." And he happened to also go to that church. And so everybody in the youth group was like, "Oh, that's a gay guy. He's diseased." And Aaron was like, if I call him AJ, sorry. Aaron is the only person who really would give me the time of day. And we just he was really into Godzilla. And
Aaron likes Godzilla?
Oh my God.
What?
Lived and breathed kaiju. Always has. And we both loved Weekly World News. And in fact, a while back, a couple months ago, there was a bit of a blow up in Aaron's world, and he had a big change in his writing career.
Sure.
and was kind of in a funk. And I actually, that same day, I was going through a box in storage and I found a photo of him sitting on my bed reading Weekly World News. And the photo is surprisingly clear enough that you can see Bat Boy on the page. And
That's
so
awesome.
I took a picture of it and I sent a picture of it to him because I was like, we've always been doing this kind of stuff. This is what you're meant to be doing. And now he's a published author, so
That's all. I think it's awesome that you guys have been able to maintain your friendship for so long.
yeah. And now he's in Texas and I'm in Florida, but we're still, our kids are each other's godchildren.
That's awesome. I don't know what that's like. I don't have friends like that. No, I do. I have some. But very cool. I think it's neat how much this has all kind of come full circle for you guys. And also interesting to note that like you're on here talking about your spiritual path, which was driven by religion. But it's not like all bad things came from it, right? I mean, you ended up making this lifelong friend.
Right. And I have been through some really messed up stuff, but I don't think I would change it for anything because I couldn't be where I'm at now without all of the twisted, weird stuff that I've been through. So it's like, but yeah, no, I've definitely had some really awesome stuff come out of it.
And you know what, that is the most, when you can look back and say that about yourself and about your history, then you know that you've come a long way in that healing.
Right.
And so that is an important marker. So are you going to try to jump on the STM publishing when you get this book done?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what direction or if they'd even be interested, but so I'm looking to have something marketable and then start shopping around to see who might want to pick it up.
Yeah, one step at a time. Sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. All right. Well, Pato, do you have anything else that you want to ask or get into?
No, I'm good.
Oh gosh.
Do you want? I mean, I can tap dance for fucking hours. Are you kidding me? Just give me a topic. Just give me one word to go off of, and I'll give you another 25 minutes of podcast.
Oh, I do have an answer to the other half of Pat's question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just totally bulldozed that question, and that was a damn good question.
Druid portrayals that make me groan. AC Valhalla, Assassin's Creed. I hate that game. And mostly because I spent a lot of money on the game and the add-on because it was like the Wrath of the Druids. And then it's just like the Druids are just bandits with an antlered skin and they're labeled Druid. So I'm kind of like, fuck you, Ubisoft.
Yeah, I cannot do anything stealth-based. That is my kryptonite when it comes to gaming.
Now, the one thing I do have to say about them is that if everyone dies and nobody can witness it, that's stealth too. So,
fair enough. I can't do the stealth. I've never played an Assassin's Creed game. I don't think I'd be any good at it.
I liked, and it's like maybe that's my problem is I liked Odyssey because it was so gorgeous and the history of it and everything was so well done. And I fell in love with that a lot more than the gameplay. And then I was hoping for the same thing. And it's kind of like Assassin's Creed Odyssey was like Ray Harryhausen Greek fantasy. And then Assassin's Creed Valhalla is like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, England. It is not a pretty scenery. It is everybody is filthy and they're wallowing in ashes and mud. So
you just sold both those games to me.
Well, there you go. Odyssey was amazing. I loved Odyssey. I've got no complaints there, but Valhalla, I have not been enjoying at all.
Do you game a lot? Do you play a lot of games?
Not really. Typically, I play a lot. I don't play a lot of titles, but I will waste my life on Fallout and any Elder Scrolls title that you give me to play with. Sure. But those are typically those two IPs are like pretty much the only thing I do until Assassin's Creed put out something that was like Greek mythology, and I was like, oh, hello.
Yeah, I'm taking a break from gaming until Starfield comes out, which is the new Bethesda IP.
I'm a little resentful over Starfield because we've been waiting 11 years for an Elder Scrolls game. So like,
you don't do the online one?
no.
No, I don't either. I don't like playing with people.
I'm too introverted to enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to join a
play.
guild and you got to be on at certain times, and it's like, I don't know. Well,
I mean, I'm not introverted, but fuck those people. I just want to play my game. I just miss when you could just fucking play your game. Remember those days?
The thing about Fallout is you can become God of the Wasteland, and you can't give everybody the God of the Wasteland fantasy with a multiplayer version.
Yeah,
Right.
True. Very true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I game a lot. See, that's why I like my Switch. I could just pick it up. It's not like a whole. If I play a game on the TV, then I have to, change the fucking input that it's on, and I got to put the game in and get the controllers out. I don't have to do that with my Switch. I can just fucking pick it up and play it wherever.
See, unfortunately, I can't relate to that because Sony owns me, and I just use my PlayStation for all of my access to the rest of the world through my TV.
Fair enough.
But I haven't had cable in years, so
That's not a bad idea. Actually, cable's really useless now. Is what a lot of people are. I'm like kind of just because I still have cable. I think I'm like the last person on the planet that does. And I don't know why. To be honest with you, I don't ever watch it. I never have.
Yeah, my wife finally got me to get rid of it, and I kind of, I'll be honest, I do miss it because I'm one of those people that I'm a man of a certain age. Sometimes I like to come home and drink a beer and watch the news. And I like that. I think there's value in watching the news every once in a while. And when you don't have cable, it's like, I'm sorry, the news isn't on Amazon Prime. Local putting on the local news, like I can't do that. And I sincerely miss it. Now, I don't miss it enough to get cable again. It's just something that I deal with and it passes. It's kind of like when I see a baby in an elevator and I'm like, oh, I want another kid. And that feeling lasts like all of 30 seconds. And then I'm glad I got a vasectomy. It's like, it's the same thing.
Right on the elevator. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like, sometimes I wish I had cable and then I'm like, no, I don't. I'm fucking fine.
I know I'm getting ready to cancel mine actually this week. So weird that you guys bring it up. But yeah, I'm like, I never watched. I mean, I'm not gonna say I've never watched it, but I got new cable when I started my job that I'm at now 2 years ago, and I've never watched it ever. So I'm like, why do I pay for this? This is crazy. It's like I paid like $200 a month for cable and internet. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it is. It is.
For
Ours
what?
was, we had it packaged and it was only 60. That was not counting the internet. That was just for the cable part. But still, it was like that even got to the point where it's like, why are we paying $60 for this? Fuck this.
I could spend that money on drugs.
Right.
You know?
I just preach to the choir, man. I understand.
Or whatever,
No,
Whatever
you
I
had it
want.
right. Drugs.
The drugs, yeah. That's
Drugs
it.
and OnlyFans.
And then on top of that, right, I pay for all these streaming services too. So it's like, why am I doing all this? So I might as well just, what do they say? Cut the cord. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know how we ended up at cable television, but you never know what's going to happen on a Wednesday, So.
there you go.
Sometimes we're talking about Druid. Sometimes we're talking about the government disclosing aliens, and sometimes we're just talking about fucking cutting cable. But there's always drugs and anal involved, so it's always a party. Anyway, I absolutely appreciate you coming on the show. I mean, I know that you listen to it, and you're already my favorite person because you listen to it. So
I appreciate
don't
you
mind
having me on.
I don't mind having
when
you
I
on.
when I saw somebody nominated me, I think it may have been Aaron. I was like, that's never going to happen. I've got nothing to say to them. But it's funny because I actually had hoped I could come on back when you were doing people who make stuff.
Yeah,
and then like you can't you quit doing that, and I was like,
We
dang,
stopped
I'm never
doing
going to get a chance to talk to them.
Oh, well, I mean, hey, people who make stuff may come back. Who knows what might happen in the future? But if it does, you're more than welcome to come on. Finding the people was actually a little harder than I thought it was going to be. So that was kind of one of the reasons for the downfall was just scheduling.
That's unfortunate because there are so many creatives in this community.
Exactly. I'm like, don't be afraid to pump your stuff. That was kind of the whole point. I want you guys to promote yourselves because I can't promote everybody single-handedly I try, but there's so many good creatives here,
I'm looking at my checklist to make sure that I've plugged everybody I want to plug. By the way, Sober Rabbit, because I haven't,
Okay.
but her stuff is amazing. Sober
That's
Rabbit
awesome.
on Instagram.
Yeah. No, I had her on my previous podcast. That's kind of how I found her.
Really?
Yeah, she was on actually probably the month before we had Tobias on. She's a comedian out of Chicago, and she was recommended to come on the Loyola show, and I had her on, and we hit it off, and been friends ever since.
What is she?
It's pretty
She's
cool.
she's just a comedian.
She was a stand-up back in the day, but post-COVID, she doesn't really do that anymore. But she started doing a webcomic when COVID hit. She had just started the Sober Rabbit thing, and because this isn't funny, but she got hit by a car, and her foot got run over by a car. Not like she got fucking like taken out on the crosswalk, but her foot got run over by a car, so it was hard for her to get around. She couldn't really do stand-up, so she started doing this webcomic, Sober Rabbit, which is about a group of animals in 12-step programs, and had her on the Loyola podcast, Radio 1 Chicago, and like we did the recording, and then like she had the boot on, and she was like walking down the. I'm like, do you want to ride? It felt bad.
Aw.
So she hopped in the car. We became fast friends, and yeah, Whitney Wasson. She's one of those people with a last name I have to say like that because otherwise I'll mispronounce it.
She must have been doing the chaos magic to injure her foot.
Oh no, I doubt it. But yeah, Sober Rabbit,
Yeah,
definitely. That's so awesome. I think I noticed
Yeah.
that you guys were following each other on Twitter, and I was like, oh shit, that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's actually because of you, because I reached out to you at one point back when you were doing the sober thing, and you referred me to check out her stuff, and then I bought a shirt from her. And
Yeah, she's kind of my. I don't want to put too much pressure on her, but no, she's someone that when I need to detox and go into my hole, she's been a very great asset. It's one of my. I'm not acting like we're BFF, but definitely, she's had a very positive impact on my life.
that's awesome.
Yeah, she's a great creator,
She's a
Do
very
you have
talented
others you want
artist,
to plug?
wonderful lady.
Do you have more people that you want to plug while you're here?
No, I think that was it.
Oh,
Actually.
okay. That's all right. Well, where can people find you? Plug yourself.
I am largely on Instagram at Dasos _Crowsong, and I have a YouTube series that I am coming back to work on. It's largely going to be hands-on research for the book that I'm writing, and it's called Swampcraft. I recorded a pilot for it earlier in the year, and then life just kind of got away from me for a minute. But
Sure.
now that I'm done with all of my research project, I'm going to be coming back to that in August. So
Very cool.
Swampcraft on YouTube and Tumblr is the blog that's going to be going along with that.
Awesome. Okay. Well, whatever links you send me, I'll put them down in the description. People can come follow you and check out your stuff and, await your upcoming endeavors. So
Awesome. Thanks.
absolutely. Well, I guess with that being said, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.